Today we're driving the new Ford Maverick Lobo, the sport truck version of the 2025 Maverick. Lobo means wolf in Spanish, and this is a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing. If it were white, it would be more of a sheep, but instead we're painted in Velocity Blue today, which is a great color on this Maverick Lobo. We have a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that makes 250 horsepower, 277 pound-feet of torque, a 7-speed automatic transmission, limited slip clutch type differential from the Bronco Badlands, quicker steering rack, lowered suspension, all the goods to make a proper little sport truck. It's all-wheel drive, and I think it's pretty fun to drive. You guys have seen us drive this around Road America for a very wet lap. That was entertaining, and you've probably seen some other videos of it sliding around an autocross course. This thing can have a bit of fun. Let's start it up, walk you guys around it, and talk about what it's been like to live with and drive this week. It's been a while since we've been in a Ford Maverick, and this is the first time we've been in one since the refresh. I believe it was about a year ago or so. We have an opening rear window. As many of you know, I own a Ford Ranger Raptor. This interior is just slightly smaller than that. Still a decent amount of room for the front seat passengers. Backseat room is a little bit tighter, but usable if you have a family. I like the interior design. The materials all feel quite nice. This costs around $42,000 with destination and everything. Starting price around $35 grand, and you can get these for a little bit less than that as dealers are knocking some money off MSRP, at least locally here in Metro Detroit. I like the ergonomics. We have physical controls for a few things, though most of your climate controls and things are in constant icons down here on this big touchscreen. It's reasonably responsive. CarPlay connects wirelessly, and haven't had any bugs with that this week. The B&O sound system here is also quite good. We have 360 cameras, auto stop start button right down there, which we've been turning off pretty much for every drive. Good visibility all around. Sunroof. I like these door pulls right here. Kind of funky, kind of neat. This Maverick Lobo is painted in Velocity Blue, and we have the standard 19-inch wheels, which are pretty wild looking. You can also spec this for $100 extra with some different wheels. These are 225/55 R19 Goodyear Wrangler Highway Terrain Territory tires. Decent amount of grip, a little bit of tread. I would put some sticky track tires on this and just hoon it around an autocross course. I think that's how I would spec my Maverick Lobo. Not completely sold on the exterior design. Maybe it's an acquired taste. Maybe you love it. Maybe you hate it. I feel like the front grille looks like the antagonist in the Cars movie, Chick Hicks, that one racer who just would do anything to win. Kind of a menacing front end design. I like the wide stance. These tires pretty much extend beyond the fender here. A little bit of poke. You can see the slightly lowered suspension, a bit lower in the rear, about an inch lower in the rear and about half an inch lower in the front. Some body kit styling elements, lower rear bumper, front bumper. No damp tailgate, but the bed liner looks great from the factory. A little bit of storage in there. That's nice to see. 120 volt, 400 watt max outlet in the back. Lots of tie down points. Good sized bed for this class of a truck. Tailgate's nice and light, easy to use. Now, even though this Maverick Lobo has some of the hardware from the 4K Max towing package, like the cooling capacity, it only tows 2,000 pounds because of the suspension and probably some other factors here. So you can tow a little bit, but if you want to tow more in your Ford Maverick, you're gonna have to upgrade to a different trim. Let's pop the hood, take a look at this 2-liter EcoBoost. Same engine that's in the base Maverick. Makes good power. Still gets good fuel economy, 24 mpg combined, 21 in the city, I believe over 30 on the highway. It's a nice torquey powertrain, sounds kind of good. I like the induction noise from Ford's 4-cylinder EcoBoost. They feel kind of healthy and throaty and meaty, and with the 7-speed, it's paired up really nicely. Super quick shifts, pretty responsive. Ford is doing a great job with their transmission tuning in 2025 with some of their refreshed models. Ranger Raptor is fantastic. This Maverick Lobo feels great. I was even quite impressed with the new Expedition and its 10-speed. Of course, you can see a lot of extra space in this engine bay because there's also the hybrid powertrain for the Ford Maverick, though that is not available on this Lobo because here we want power and we want sportiness. This Lobo has the optional black roof. Let's take a look in the back seats. Pretty easy to get in and out of. Nice back seat room. This feels more spacious than the Toyota Tacoma back here. This is actually quite good. 2 USB-C ports, a plug outlet, an armrest. For the money, this is shaping up to be a pretty nice place to spend time. Aside from wanting maybe a few more physical controls for climate, I really like this interior. I think it looks cool, it's pretty functional, and the use of space for storage compartments, things like that, is really well designed. Nice tall roof too. All right, let's hop in, show you around a couple more things. Lots of warning chimes in every Ford these days. And I'll take this for a drive. So we've got a couple trips here. You can see this Maverick Lobo has averaged about 24 miles to the gallon in the last 500 miles or so. That's good. You can configure your screen here with a round speedometer or a digital speedometer only. Okay, kind of a minimalist display. I wish the tachometer were a little bit more prominent. This center gauge cluster is a little too minimalist for my taste, but I guess it gets the job done. Over to the left, you have your coolant temperature. Over to the right, your fuel level. We've got a slightly different button configuration this week in this Ford Maverick than my Ranger Raptor, which I'm very used to, so that's kind of been throwing me off a little bit, but it works well. We've got lane keep assist, following distance changes here. Ford does a really nice job with their adaptive cruise control. It's worked well. Volume controls, track controls, hang up and pick up your phone, and then you can change your drive modes right here. We have options between normal, eco, slippery, sport, tow haul, and the Lobo mode for spirited closed course driving. Pretty cool stuff. We'll try that out a little bit later. We'll start off in normal. Nice high resolution reverse camera and 360 camera. Great use of screen real estate here. Love to see it. Parking brake is right down there behind your rotary shifter, and we've turned off stop start, and we might play a little bit with traction control today too. Nice size center console here. We've got quick access buttons for our cameras. You've also got buttons for auto hold, trailer controls, engine start stop button, 2 USB-C ports, a cigarette lighter port, and then that back window button which we used earlier. Decent sized glove box too. We also get heated seats. The 7-speed auto is super smooth at low speeds. Suspension is comfortable. Even though this is a sport-tuned sport truck, it doesn't beat you up over our bumpy Michigan roads. Brake pedal feels nice, easy to modulate. And all-wheel drive puts your power down very well. No drama here coming out of that. I like these seats too. They're not super aggressively bolstered, but they're just grippy enough. They're comfortable. You have a lot of adjustability with your drive position, your ride height, your seat height. We'll go into sport mode. Let's see how it handles the corner. Pretty good mechanical grip considering what tires are on here. It handles great, all things considered. I was shocked at how well it did around Road America. The brakes actually held up reasonably well. It was fun, it was planted, it was even a little bit tail happy around the autocross course. on light throttle applications, you can hear just a little bit of turbo whistle. A little bit of wind noise at speed, but not terrible, honestly. It's still pretty quiet in here. I have great visibility all around. Adaptive cruise control is really easy to adjust. Just press and hold for 5 mile an hour changes, or single clicks for 1 mile an hour changes. You have one of 4 different following distance settings. The closest following distance is actually pretty close, almost uncomfortably so sometimes, especially at lower speeds, but I like that you have that adjustability. See here, coming up to this semi-truck at 70 miles an hour. We're about a second or so, maybe a second and a half behind him. 0 to 60 here should happen in about 6 seconds, maybe a little bit longer. Don't ask me how I know, but earlier this week I found out that this is exactly as fast as my 2001 Honda S2000. Nice point of reference there. Still have about 7 to 7.5 inches of ground clearance here in this Maverick Lobo, so you could still do a bit of dirt road rallying if you wanted to. It'll get you to the campsite, it'll get you to the trail. Alright, let's toss this around in Lobo mode a little bit. We'll do a quick 0 to 60 here. Love how responsive the 7-speed automatic is. Great rotation there on throttle and Lobo mode. I can feel a little bit of rear differential trickery going on, getting us rotated around those corners. Front end is sharp. And of course, in Lobo mode, our gearbox is going to assume the most aggressive shift pattern. So it's going to downshift going into corners, give us maximum revs, maximum performance. That's pretty fun. It's cool that they've tuned that drive mode into this Lobo specifically. I also like how quickly you can change drive modes right here on the steering wheel. All right, let's give Lobo mode one more taste here around this highway exit ramp. Cruise control automatically disengages. It says track use only. All right, hard on the brakes. Turning in. Nice rotation there off throttle. Definitely a more vocal set of tires on this Lobo. I wouldn't mind a slightly grippier setup. All right, let's come to some conclusions here. Is the Maverick Lobo fun to drive? Yes, I think it is. It adds a flavor to the Ford Maverick that, one, I wasn't really expecting. But they've done a good job tuning the suspension. The powertrain is fantastic. This 2-liter turbo pumps out torque like no other. Maybe it falls off a little bit higher revs, but it's still an entertaining powertrain. The 7-speed is tuned great. I love the rear differential on this. That twin clutch type rear diff does wonders around a corner. Yet it still remains well equipped, well priced, comfortable enough for daily duty. It's practical. You've got a nice good sized truck bed in the back. The rear seat room is quite ample, especially for something kind of in its own class. It's a nice truck to spend time in. Really the only complaint that I've had about it this week, well, maybe two things. I'm not crazy about the looks, and the second thing is the degassing of plastics here is a little bit unpleasant. This Maverick Lobo already has about 2,200 miles on it. It's probably, I don't know the build date on this, but it's just a little bit stinky. Every time I've gotten in this Maverick, I've had to air it out or turn on my climate control at full blast. That'll dissipate over the course of a few months, but just something to note from, that new car buyer perspective. If you're getting one of these right off the showroom floor, you might have some unpleasant odors as those plastics and materials degas in this interior over the first month or two. Otherwise, this has been a lot of fun to drive. Not completely sold on the styling, but if you're into a sport truck like I was back when I was in high school and kind of the early days of my driving career, I think this is a really cool bit of a throwback, bit of a modern interpretation to the sport truck. I like that they've done all the necessary things to make this drive well. I like the faster steering rack. It handles great. The powertrain is quite entertaining. Overall, it seems to kind of hit all the marks for its intended purpose. Well done, Ford. And if you're looking for a slightly more entertaining to drive Ford Maverick Lobo, honestly, this is more fun to drive than most sporty crossovers at this price point. I like what they've done here, and I think for the enthusiast, this would be a great option that maybe someone who wouldn't have considered a Maverick before would be quite attracted to this. So anyway, we'll wrap up our thoughts there. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you guys have any questions at the end of this video. That is the 2025 Ford Maverick Lobo.